Imagine the pressure of 50 commercial jetliners pressing against your body all at once. No explosion. No warning. At nearly 28,000 feet below the Atlantic, the rules of our world don't just change, they dissolve. Here, steel doesn't just bend, it can implode in a heartbeat. And whatever falls into this trench, whatever is lost to these depths, often leaves no trace for history to find. For over a century, the world has been obsessed with the Bermuda Triangle. We've built a massive library of folklore around it. We speak of time slips, alien abductions, and the mystical energy of Atlantis pulsing from the lightless seafloor. These stories give a face to our fear, providing an answer where there is only silence. But there is a cold reality that the conspiracy theories often ignore, a physical truth far more unsettling than any ghost story. Many of the most infamous disappearances occurred at the very edge of this chasm. This is where the last radio pings were recorded before flatlining. Paranormal hunters call this the gateway to hell, citing electronic fog and interference. But when we strip away the folklore, we find a machine made of gravity and geology, a system designed to process and hide anything that enters its domain. Welcome to the Puerto Rico Trench. This isn't a legend. This is the deepest and most lethal environment in the entire Atlantic Ocean. If the Bermuda Triangle is the kidnapper, then the Puerto Rico Trench is the permanent evidence locker. Today, we are dissecting the science chain of this abyss. We are going to look at the mechanics of this environment to understand why nature doesn't need myths to make a 50,000-ton ship vanish. We are descending into the heart of the Atlantic's greatest mystery. To understand why this chasm is such an effective graveyard, we have to look at its architecture. Most people imagine the ocean floor as a flat desert, but the Puerto Rico Trench is a tectonic war zone. It sits at the collision point between the North American plate and the Caribbean plate. For millions of years, the North American plate has been forced beneath the Caribbean plate at a near-vertical angle. In geology, this is a subduction zone, a conveyor belt leading straight into the Earth's mantle. Imagine two massive stone walls grinding against each other with billions of tons of force. This isn't a smooth process. It's a violent, stuttering friction that creates cliffs steeper than any canyon on dry land. The Grand Canyon is a playground compared to these drops. These slopes are so vertical that miles-thick layers of sediment are in a state of constant instability. When a ship or plane falls onto these cliffs, it can trigger what researchers call a turbidity current, a massive underwater landslide. This is the first link in our chain. In a typical ocean, a wreck sits on the sand, waiting to be found. But here, the Earth is restless. The landslide can catch the debris, dragging it thousands of feet deeper and burying it under shifting Earth before a rescue team even arrives. Nature doesn't just claim the evidence, it may effectively erase the crime scene. But the landslides are only the beginning. Once you pass the 13,000-foot mark, you enter a realm where human engineering becomes irrelevant. This is the second link in our science chain, absolute pressure. At the bottom of the trench, nearly 28,000 feet down, the pressure reaches over 800 atmospheres. Imagine standing beneath a column of water with the weight of 50 Boeing 747s pressing directly onto your shoulders. At this depth, water becomes a dense, crushing force. Most famous shipwrecks, like the Titanic, are found because they sit in shallow water, relatively speaking. At 12,000 feet, the Titanic had time to fill with water, equalizing the pressure. But in the Puerto Rico Trench, the drop can be so fast that air becomes a lethal trap. Any hollow space, a fuel tank or a cargo hold, is a bomb waiting to go off. This is implosion. It happens in mere milliseconds. Some models suggest the air is compressed so fast it can reach extreme temperatures momentarily. The steel isn't just crushed, it is effectively shattered. What reaches the bottom of this trench may no longer look like a man-made vessel. It becomes a distorted mass of matter, so dense that even advanced multi-beam sonar may misidentify it. To a scanner, a massive freighter can look like just another jagged rock in a desert of silt. Pressure doesn't just damage the ship, it obscures the truth. It ensures that even if we search for decades, the evidence remains invisible, hidden by the very laws of physics. But geology and pressure are just the cleanup crew. As you go deeper, past the point where human machines can safely function, you realize a truth that is even more unsettling. At these depths, things are still alive, but they don't live by our rules. They have evolved to turn this crushing pressure into their very lifeblood, thriving where we would vanish. In the next part, we step into the world of alien biology, where our limits are their advantages. And we reveal the final, terrifying link, the tsunami time bomb that may one day threaten millions of lives on the U.S. East Coast. The science chain is holding, and the abyss is preparing its final revelation. When we cross the threshold of destruction, we encounter a paradox that challenges our understanding of life itself. How can a biological organism thrive in a place where a steel hull may be pulverized? The answer lies in the third link of our science chain, hadal adaptation. At 28,000 feet, sunlight was extinguished miles above. There is no photosynthesis, no seasons, no green plants. This is a world powered by marine snow, a constant, ghostly drizzle of organic detritus falling from the sunlit world. It is the leftovers of the living, fueling a kingdom of scavengers. But this life exists only because nothing else can survive here, including us. To endure 800 atmospheres of pressure, these creatures have performed a biological miracle. At this depth, calcium, the building block of our bones, is a liability. Some researchers suggest that the pressure is so immense it could turn a human femur brittle, making it susceptible to shattering. This is why many inhabitants of the Puerto Rico Trench have evolved without traditional hard skeletons. Their bodies are built from specialized protein compounds and fluid-filled cells that are inherently non-compressible. They don't fight the pressure. They have invited it into their very cells. They have turned a lethal environment into a protective sanctuary. They are eyeless, for in a world of total darkness, sight is an expensive luxury. Instead, they have evolved sensory arrays that can detect chemical trails and vibrations in the water. They are the aliens of the Atlantic, living proof that nature can turn a graveyard into a home, provided you are willing to evolve beyond the limits of humanity. But this biology exists only because it is the only thing that can survive the true predator of the trench. As fascinating as the biology is, the Puerto Rico Trench holds a much darker secret. It isn't just a biological vault. It may be a planetary time bomb. The final link in our science chain is accumulated tectonic energy. As we established, the North American plate is grinding beneath the Caribbean. But this movement is rarely smooth. It's a violent, stuttering friction. Right now, these two tectonic giants are locked. They are stuck together, while the relentless pressure of the Earth's mantle builds behind them, year after year, century after century. Geologists at agencies like the USGS have warned of a potential megathrust event. If this 500-mile fault line slips even a few meters, it may displace billions of tons of water in a single heartbeat. That 1918 event was a warning, a sneeze from the abyss. Some models suggest that a full-scale rupture in the Puerto Rico Trench could generate a tsunami reaching extraordinary heights, traveling across the open ocean. It may not only hit the islands of the Caribbean. Researchers suggest such a wave could potentially reach the U.S. East Coast or even the coast of Europe within hours. The trench isn't just holding the secrets of missing ships. It is forged by the catastrophes of tomorrow. The absolute silence of the abyss is an illusion. It is the sound of a planet holding its breath. The Puerto Rico Trench doesn't need ghost stories or ancient curses to be terrifying. It is a masterpiece of natural engineering, a system where pressure can erase evidence, cold preserves remains, and landslides may bury the crime scene. We pride ourselves on satellites that can read a newspaper from space. We believe our digital maps have conquered the world, but we are often blind to the violent reality functioning right beneath our feet. This abyss is a lesson in humility. It reminds us that despite our steel ships and advanced sonar, we are merely temporary guests on a planet that operates on a scale far beyond our control. For centuries, we've looked at the ocean and seen a mystery. But the deeper we go, the more the science chain reveals the truth. This region is not haunted. It is simply a system, unforgiving physics, unstable Earth, an abyss that never sleeps. Out there, beyond the horizon, the system is still running, and the ocean is still keeping its secrets. The abyss is waiting.